directed at me and wanted to unleash the fury. I imagine she was worried that if all of those trolls kept having a dig at me, I wouldn't have any self-esteem left for her to tear to pieces. I say that about my mum, but she's incredibly supportive. She just phoned me to tell me she'd seen a poster for my show Judge Romesh on a bus stop and it had made her emotional. Not only was this very sweet, it also made me feel pretty guilty about what I've just written about that suit. So now I'm wearing it as I write the rest of this chapter. I've had to draw the curtains. One other thing about my mum, she is totally honest, often to a fault, which I believe is a Tamil Sri Lankan trait. She will often phone me after I've been on a TV show and say, "What made you wear that shirt? One of the people at work said you look fat." To my mum, that is her making sure I learn from the mistake and either take up a crash diet or throw out the offending item, or preferably both. To me, that is a cue to finish the call, defiantly put the shirt back on, and try to forget that my mum and her colleagues are talking to each other about my weight. But in search of some more impartial and hopefully more sympathetic advice, I've started seeing a counsellor. I don't know if I'm finding it useful or not yet, because obviously I'm not doing any of the things I'm supposed to do outside the sessions. I've always done this. When I was at school, my parents got me piano lessons, but I never practiced. Each lesson was me seeing a piece of music for the first time and trying to play it as if I'd been practicing it all week. In my defence, I didn't have a piano, but my parents told me other kids would have practiced with an orange or something. I'm also seeing a physio because I injured my shoulder recently. I don't do any of the exercises she gives me either, and then I have to lie when I go to the next session. I injured my shoulder on a snowmobile when I was filming in the Arctic for the Christmas episode of The Misadventures of Romesh Ranganathan. We'd just been out on the ice receiving training on what to do if we saw a polar bear, in summary, shit yourself and run, and we're all headed back to our camp. It was then that I discovered snowmobiles are amazing fun for about the first 20 minutes of riding them, and after that, you're mainly praying that you survive. This might have something to do with the fact that I'm the absolute opposite of a speed junkie. I'm a slow junkie. I get a buzz when I come to a safe stop. How did this affect me on the snowmobile? The speed I felt comfortable driving at was slower than that of the rest of the group, and probably only slightly faster than walking while dragging a snowmobile, which meant I kept having to thrash it for a bit to catch up. We approached the base camp where the snow became rock. I took a wrong turn and tipped it over. Immediately, everyone in the group started panicking because, as on-screen talent, my life means more than anyone else's, which is ridiculous, but I enjoy the priority treatment and would be furious if it stopped. This seems a good moment to point out that I'll be joking a lot in this book. I don't want to have to keep saying just kidding, so I'm going to trust your judgment. Every time you hear something even remotely offensive, just assume I'm kidding. Except now, because when I say I would be furious if it stopped, I'm not joking. When I mentioned that I started going to counselling there, I genuinely hoped I'd go into an inspirational thing about you going to counselling or getting help if you need it, and thereby giving me a properly emotional opening to the book. Something so enlightening you almost wouldn't need to listen to the rest. But that didn't happen. You'll find out soon enough that I'm not the guy to go to for advice. This book, then, is not a motivating guide to living your best life. It's a collection of my stories. It's all of the stuff I think is important in my life so far, and a few things I've thrown in for a laugh. If I miss anything out, I'll include it in the second book, which will comprise all of the stories that were too shit to go into this one, but nowhere near as shit as the ones I'll put in the third. For now, live from Bedford-Stuyvesant, the livest one. Enjoy. Chapter 1. Mass Appeal. I was a fat child. I wasn't aware of this when I was very young, as my parents would always tell me how good-looking I was. Now I wonder whether, through parental love or pure delusion, they couldn't see I wasn't. I'm not saying I was ugly, I'm just saying I was more fat than good-looking. If I was sitting in the audience of Question Time, Dimbleby wouldn't say, "A question from the good-looking kid." He'd say, "Yes, the chubby kid who I'm not sure is looking directly at me." The first time I remember being upset about being overweight was when I had to buy a school uniform, aged about 8. My parents took me to the uniform shop, and the sales attendant informed them I would need a pair of trousers for a child much older than me on account of my unusually large waist. I remember going to a changing room and crying while trying on a pair of trousers that must have been made for Pavarotti to grow into. My being the size I was meant that my mum often had to shorten the legs by about 2 feet to avoid me pushing the concept of turn-ups far beyond acceptable levels. My dietary habits became of concern to my school, but never to my parents. My